The sons of a sitting American president invested in defense technology companies that are now receiving Pentagon contracts tied to the Iran conflict. That happened while their father controls the military budget that funds those same contracts. And tonight we are learning the scope of those investments may be far larger than previously disclosed. Here is what matters. Confirmed Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. have both made documented investments in defense tech firms. Those firms have secured active Pentagon contracts. The timeline of those investments overlaps directly with the escalation of U.S. military operations in and around Iran. The companies in question specialize in autonomous drone systems, targeting software, and battlefield surveillance technology, precisely the categories of equipment being deployed in the current conflict. Confirmed, at least two of those firms have seen contract values increase substantially since hostilities intensified. What is still developing? Tonight, the exact dollar value of each investment, whether any of those positions were disclosed on federally required financial forms, and whether the White House had any involvement in steering those contract awards. To understand how we got here, you have to go back 18 months. That is when both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. began quietly building positions in what investors were calling the autonomous warfare sector. These were early stage bets on companies most Americans had never heard of. Then the Iran situation escalated. U.S. forces began expanded operations. The Pentagon accelerated its drone procurement budget, and almost immediately, the companies the Trump sons had backed were in line for contracts. Not one contract, multiple contracts, some awarded on expedited timelines that bypassed standard review. Watchdog groups filed records requests. Investigative reporters started pulling financial disclosures. What they found was a pattern, not necessarily a conspiracy, but a pattern of private financial interest running parallel to public military policy. And here is where it gets complicated. Federal ethics law places strict limits on elected officials profiting from government contracts. But those rules apply to the president, not to his adult children. That legal gap is now the center of the political firestorm. This is significant because the next 72 hours are not abstract. By Thursday, the Senate Armed Services Committee is scheduled to vote on a supplemental defense appropriations package worth over $40 billion. At least a portion of that funding would flow directly to autonomous drone procurement, the exact sector where the Trump sons hold documented investments. 3 Democratic senators have already sent a formal letter to the Pentagon's Inspector General demanding an immediate audit of contract award procedures. They want answers before that Thursday vote. If the IG opens a formal inquiry, it could freeze some of those contract disbursements entirely. On the legal front, 2 government ethics organizations have filed separate complaints with the Office of Special Counsel, arguing that even if the Trump sons are not technically covered by executive ethics rules, the pattern of investment constitutes an unprecedented conflict of interest that demands new legal scrutiny. Trump Organization spokesperson tonight, a spokesperson for the Trump Organization, issued a brief statement calling the reporting politically motivated and factually incomplete, and said that all investments were made through proper private channels with full compliance with applicable law. No specific figures or disclosures were provided. Democratic leadership, the House Minority Leader went further than any Democrat has to date, calling the investments an obscene monetization of American military sacrifice and announcing plans to introduce legislation closing the ethics loophole that currently exempts adult children of. Precedents from conflict of interest rules. Republican leadership has been notably quiet. 2 GOP senators reached for comment tonight, declined to respond. One senior Republican aide speaking on background to our congressional team said, and this is a direct quote, that there was genuine discomfort in the caucus about the optics, though no Republican has gone on record. The Defense Department issued a one-line statement saying all contract awards go through rigorous merit-based review processes. No spokesperson agreed to an on-camera interview. Watch this, because this story is not just about one family and one conflict. This is about a structural question that American democracy has never fully answered. What happens when the commander-in-chief's personal financial ecosystem and the machinery of war start moving in the same direction at the same time? The defense contracting industry has seen explosive growth since the Iran escalation began. The sector is up over 60. since hostilities intensified, according to defense industry analysts. That is not unique to the Trump family. Plenty of politically connected investors have benefited, but the Trump sons are unique in one specific way. Their father controls the trigger. Congress has tried before to close ethics gaps around presidential families. After every modern administration, there have been calls for reform. None have passed with enough votes to become law. Tonight, that failure is suddenly front and center again. Senate Armed Services Committee vote on $40 billion defense supplemental. Watch for last-minute procedural holds. Pentagon Inspector General responds to Senate letter. An audit announcement would be a major escalation. Ethics watchdogs are combing Trump's son's public disclosures for unreported positions. Expect new reporting within 48 hours. Does the president address this directly? Any on-camera statement or deliberate silence is itself a data point. Watch share prices on the identified defense tech firms. Unusual movement in either direction tells a story. Will any Republican senator break ranks before Thursday's vote? One defection could change the procedural math entirely. American soldiers are in the field. American treasure is funding the fight. And tonight, the sons of the man who ordered that fight hold financial stakes in the companies supplying it, and no law currently on the books says they cannot